Have you ever wondered why Japanese kids barely ever throw tantrums in public, why a 5-year-old in Tokyo can ride the subway alone, and why nobody is yelling, bribing, or threatening a timeout to make it happen? No cap, the secret isn't some ancient mystical parenting hack locked away in a temple somewhere. It's one simple, almost boringly consistent rule that Japanese parents live by from the day their child is born, and once you understand it, you'll realize why Western parenting feels like a constant battle while Japanese parenting feels like a quiet, steady rhythm. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to see discipline in a completely different light. The rule is this. In Japan, you don't discipline a child by controlling them, you discipline a child by shaping the environment and your own behavior so that good behavior becomes the obvious, natural choice. This is the heart of what's called shitsuk, and it's a word that doesn't really have a clean English translation, but think of it as quiet, consistent training through everyday living rather than punishment after the fact. There's no dramatic lecture, no raised voice, no public shaming. Instead, a Japanese parent will calmly repeat the same small expectation, the same gentle correction, the same modeled behavior, day after day, until it just becomes who the child is. It's less about forcing obedience and more about building identity, and that distinction changes everything. Here's where it gets really interesting, because shitsuk is deeply tied to a concept called omoyari, which basically means consideration for others, or that gut feeling of thinking about how your actions affect the people around you. Japanese parents don't say, "Don't do that because I said so." They say things like, "How do you think that makes your friend feel?" From an incredibly young age, kids are taught to read the room, to notice discomfort in others, and to adjust their behavior because they genuinely care, not because they're scared of getting in trouble. That's low-key genius, because fear-based discipline fades the moment the authority figure leaves the room, but empathy-based discipline travels with the kid everywhere, whether mom is watching or not. Now let's talk about how this plays out in daily routines, because Japanese households run on what you could call Tokyo-style efficiency, and it's honestly a flex. Kids as young as 3 or 4 are expected to fold their own futon, put away their own toys, and help set the table, not because their parents are strict drill sergeants, but because contributing to the household is just part of belonging to the family. There's barely any negotiation involved because the expectation was set early and repeated so consistently that the child never even considers an alternative. This is Kaizen in action, the idea of continuous, tiny improvement rather than overnight transformation. Nobody expects a toddler to master responsibility in one day, but a tiny task done every single day for years quietly builds a kid who genuinely respects effort, order, and their own capability. And speaking of order, minimalism plays a massive role here too, and it's not just an aesthetic choice, it's a parenting strategy hiding in plain sight. Japanese homes tend to keep toys, clothes, and clutter intentionally limited, and that's not about being stingy, it's about giving a child's developing brain less chaos to process. Fewer toys actually means deeper, more focused play, and kids learn to take better care of the few things they have instead of constantly chasing the next shiny object. This ties directly into frugal living too, because Japanese parents are famous for teaching kids the value of money early, giving small allowances tied to simple chores, and letting children experience the natural consequence of overspending their allowance on candy instead of swooping in to bail them out. That lesson lands so much harder than any lecture ever could. There's also this almost invisible cultural backbone running through all of it called wa, or harmony, the idea that the group's peace matters as much as individual desire. A Japanese child learns shockingly early that screaming in a restaurant or melting down in a store disrupts the comfort of everyone around them, and that awareness, paired with calm and predictable parental reactions, means tantrums get way less fuel to grow. Parents don't reward outbursts with attention or negotiation, they just stay steady, repeat the boundary, and let the moment pass, and over time the child learns that big emotional explosions simply don't get results, while calm communication does. And underneath every single one of these habits, there's this deeper, almost spiritual thread called ikigai, which roughly means your reason for being, your sense of purpose. Japanese parents aren't just trying to raise compliant kids, they're trying to raise kids who feel genuinely useful, genuinely connected, and genuinely proud of contributing to something bigger than themselves, whether that's their family, their classroom, or their community. That's the real difference between obedience born from fear and obedience born from belonging, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So here's the ultimate takeaway, and it's honestly bigger than parenting advice, it's a life philosophy. Real discipline was never about control, threats, or punishment, it was always about consistency, empathy, and quietly modeling the behavior you want to see, one small repeated moment at a time. Whether you're raising a toddler or just trying to build better habits in your own life, the Japanese approach reminds us that lasting change doesn't come from one big dramatic effort, it comes from showing up the same calm, intentional way every single day until that better version of you simply becomes who you are. And honestly, that might be the most powerful parenting secret and life secret hiding in plain sight.